Imagine waking up one morning and discovering that the ground beneath your feet is worth more than you could earn in an entire lifetime. Within weeks, thousands of strangers begin pouring into your home from every corner of the world. Ships crowd the coastline. Entire forests disappear. Quiet villages become booming cities almost overnight. It sounds like something from a movie. But this really happened. Today, California is home to nearly 40 million people. If it were its own country, it would have one of the largest economies on Earth. It's the birthplace of Hollywood, Silicon Valley, and some of the world's biggest companies. But California wasn't always a land of billionaires, movie stars, and technology. For thousands of years, it belonged to people who had never heard the words United States. Long before the freeways. Before the Golden Gate Bridge. Before Los Angeles. California was an entirely different world. This is the incredible history of California. Thousands of years before Europeans ever saw the Pacific Ocean, California was already one of the most diverse places on Earth. Historians estimate that more than 300,000 Native Americans lived across the region. Unlike much of North America, California wasn't home to one large empire. Instead, over 100 different tribes called this land home. Each spoke its own language. Each had its own customs. Its own stories. Its own traditions. The Chumash built wooden plank canoes that carried them across the Pacific waters to trade with neighboring communities. The Miwok hunted deer in the valleys. The Yurok built villages among towering redwood forests in the north. The Tongva thrived along the coast where Los Angeles stands today. Together, they created one of the richest cultural landscapes in North America. California itself seemed designed for abundance. Towering mountains captured snow each winter. Rivers carried fresh water into fertile valleys. Oak trees dropped millions of acorns every year, one of the region's most important food sources. Fish filled the rivers. Whales passed offshore. Game animals roamed freely. Unlike many ancient civilizations, survival here didn't require building massive kingdoms. Nature already provided almost everything people needed. For thousands of years, life followed the rhythm of the seasons. Families gathered food. Children learned from their elders. Communities traded peacefully across hundreds of miles. No cities. No castles. No kings. Just generations living alongside one of the richest landscapes on the continent. Everything changed in the 16th century. In 1542, a Spanish explorer named Juan Rodriguez Cabrillo sailed north along California's coastline. From the deck of his ship, he became the first European known to see much of what is now California. He claimed the land for Spain. Then he sailed away. For more than 200 years, very little changed. Spain was focused on Mexico, Peru, and the enormous wealth flowing from its American colonies. California remained distant. Remote. Almost forgotten. But in the late 1700s, everything changed once again. A new empire was expanding across the Pacific. Russia was moving south. Spain feared losing California forever. So instead of sending soldiers, they sent priests. Spain didn't conquer California with massive armies. Instead, it arrived with crosses, churches, and missionaries. Beginning in 1769, Franciscan priest Junipero Serra led the construction of a chain of missions stretching hundreds of miles along the California coast. 21 missions would eventually connect San Diego to Sonoma. On paper, the missions had one goal: convert Native Americans to Christianity. But they also served another purpose. They were Spain's way of claiming California before another empire could. Around each mission, farms appeared. Livestock multiplied. Small settlements slowly grew into permanent communities. Many of today's major California cities, including San Diego, Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo, and San Francisco, began as mission settlements. For Spain, it was a success. For many native Californians, it was the beginning of unimaginable change. Life inside the missions was nothing like life before European arrival. Many native people were baptized and expected to remain at the missions. They learned Spanish. They worked the fields. They cared for livestock. They built churches from stone and adobe. Some came willingly. Many did not. Even more devastating than forced labor were diseases. Smallpox. Measles. Influenza. Illnesses the native population had never encountered. Without natural immunity, entire villages disappeared. Historians estimate that California's indigenous population declined dramatically over the following decades. A world that had existed for thousands of years was transformed in just a few generations. Then history changed again. In 1821, Mexico won its independence from Spain. Overnight, California was no longer Spanish. It became part of the new nation of Mexico. The missions gradually lost their power. Large areas of land were divided into enormous ranches called ranchos. Thousands of cattle roamed the hills. Hides and tallow became California's biggest exports. People began calling hides California banknotes because they were so valuable in international trade. The ranchos created a new class of wealthy landowners known as Californios. Horseback riding, cattle drives, and fiestas became symbols of life across Mexican California. But even then, California remained isolated. Travel from Mexico City could take months. The population was tiny. Most of the land remained wild. Few people imagined that the next generation would completely reshape this quiet frontier. By the 1840s, American settlers were arriving in increasing numbers. Many believed the United States was destined to expand from the Atlantic Ocean all the way to the Pacific. It was an idea known as manifest destiny. Soon, tensions between Mexico and the United States reached a breaking point. In 1846, a small group of American settlers raised a handmade flag with a grizzly bear painted across it. For a brief moment, they declared California an independent republic. It lasted only a few weeks. The United States military soon arrived. California became one of the major fronts in the Mexican-American War. When the fighting ended in 1848, Mexico surrendered California to the United States. No one knew it yet. But just 9 days before that peace treaty was signed, something extraordinary had already happened. A carpenter working at a sawmill near the American River noticed tiny yellow flakes shining beneath the water. Those flakes would change California. And the world. Forever. On January 24, 1848, a carpenter named James W. Marshall was inspecting a newly built sawmill near the American River. Something caught his eye. Tiny pieces of bright yellow metal sparkled beneath the flowing water. Marshall picked one up. He tested it. It wasn't fool's gold. It was the real thing. Gold. At first, the discovery was kept secret. The mill's owner, John Sutter, feared thousands of miners would destroy his land before he could build the agricultural empire he had envisioned. He was right. The secret didn't stay hidden for long. Within months, word spread across America, and then across the world. People abandoned farms, factories, ships, and even military posts. Teachers quit their classrooms. Doctors closed their offices. Sailors deserted their ships the moment they reached San Francisco. Everyone wanted one thing: gold. In 1849, more than 80,000 fortune seekers poured into California. History remembers them as the 49ers. Some crossed the Great Plains by wagon. Others sailed around Cape Horn, a dangerous journey that could take 6 months. Thousands crossed the jungles of Panama before catching another ship to California. Many never arrived. Disease, storms, hunger, and accidents claimed countless lives along the way. But those who made it found something unbelievable. California had become one of the busiest places on Earth. Only a few years earlier, San Francisco was a sleepy settlement with just a few hundred residents. Now, it exploded into a booming city almost overnight. Wooden buildings appeared by the thousands. Hotels, saloons, gambling halls, and banks opened as fast as workers could build them. Some ships were abandoned in the harbor because entire crews rushed to the goldfields the moment they arrived. Many of those ships eventually became part of the city's streets as San Francisco expanded over the shoreline. Stories of overnight millionaires filled newspapers across the globe. But reality was much harsher. Most miners never struck it rich. Many spent everything they owned chasing a dream that never came true. Ironically, some of the biggest fortunes weren't made by digging for gold at all. They were made by selling food, tools, clothing, and supplies to the miners. One merchant named Levi Strauss began selling durable work pants to prospectors. Those pants would later become one of the world's most recognizable clothing brands. The gold rush wasn't just creating wealth. It was creating modern California. California grew so quickly that the United States could barely keep up. In 1850, just 2 years after gold was discovered, California officially became the 31st state. Its population continued to soar. Roads stretched farther inland. Ports expanded. Farms covered the fertile Central Valley. Then came another turning point. In 1869, the Transcontinental Railroad connected California to the eastern United States. A journey that once took months could now be completed in days. People, goods, ideas, and investment flowed into California faster than ever before. The gold rush had begun as a search for precious metal, but it ended by creating one of the fastest growing economies in American history. And California's biggest transformations were still waiting. In the 20th century, it wouldn't just produce gold. It would produce dreams. By the early 1900s, California had transformed once again. The gold was fading. But another industry was quietly beginning to shine. Motion pictures. At first, filmmakers worked on the East Coast. Then they discovered Southern California. The weather was sunny almost every day. Mountains, beaches, deserts, forests, and cities were all within a few hours of one another. If a director needed ancient Rome, a western frontier, or a tropical island, California could become all of them. Before long, a small neighborhood outside Los Angeles became the center of the movie business. Its name was Hollywood. What started as a handful of small studios soon grew into the entertainment capital of the world. For millions of people across the globe, California became more than a place. It became a dream. Then came World War II. California became one of America's industrial powerhouses. Shipyards worked around the clock. Aircraft factories produced thousands of military planes. Cities like Los Angeles, San Diego, and Oakland expanded rapidly as workers arrived from every corner of the country. When the war ended, the growth didn't stop. A new generation of scientists and engineers settled in Northern California. Near Stanford University, small technology companies began experimenting with semiconductors. Few people noticed. But those tiny silicon chips would soon change the world. The region became known as Silicon Valley. From garage workshops came companies that would reshape modern life. Personal computers. The internet. Smartphones. Artificial intelligence. Many of the technologies that define the 21st century were born in one small corner of California. Today, California is unlike anywhere else. It grows more food than any other American state. Its film industry reaches billions of people. Its technology companies influence how the world communicates, works, and learns. If California were an independent nation, its economy would rank among the largest on Earth. Yet it's also a land of contrasts. Luxury neighborhoods exist just miles from homelessness. World-famous beaches sit beside drought-stricken farmland. Some of America's greatest fortunes were built here. So were some of its greatest challenges. Wildfires. Housing shortages. Earthquakes. Water scarcity. California has always been a place where opportunity and hardship exist side by side. For thousands of years, native communities lived with the rhythm of nature. Then came explorers. Missionaries. Empires. Gold seekers. Railroads. Movie stars. Engineers. Entrepreneurs. Every generation reinvented California in its own way. Yet one thing has never changed. People continue to arrive believing that somewhere beyond the mountains, beside the ocean, or inside the next great idea, a better future is waiting. Maybe that's California's greatest resource. Not its gold. Not its farmland. Not even its technology. But its ability to convince millions of people that tomorrow can be bigger than today. And after more than 10,000 years of human history, that story is still being written. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this documentary, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments, which US state should we explore next.